The sixth section of the From Ball to Lillis, a complete record book by Johnny Maynell, The Conference and Back, 1993 to 1999. So season 1993-94, GM Vauxhall Conference finishing 13th, FA Cup second round, FA Trophy third round. Nobody was under any illusions as to the size of the task faced by Halifax Town as they attempted to regain their Football League status at the first attempt. The standard in the conference was high. Town had learnt that to their cost in recent FA Cup defeats by Kettering Town and Witton Albion, and Halifax would quickly have to adapt to the physical approach adopted by most teams. The club might have wished to remain full-time and the players might have pledged themselves to Halifax Town's cause, though not Mick Matthews or John Thomas, both of whom had been released. But evidently not all meant what they said. Russell Bradley quickly moved to Scunthorpe United, while Jason Hardy, Jason Peake and Chris Lucchetti expressed their intentions to get back into the Football League as soon as possible. For the board of directors, as for everyone, the conference was uncharted waters. Peter Wragg had spent 9 years with Macclesfield Town and had hoisted them up the conference in his first season at Moss Rose, and it was him that Halifax turned in an effort to make an immediate challenge. While Mick Rathbone reverted to his old role as physio, he also took on the mantle of assistant manager and registered as a player. Wragg took up his duties in June and sought out players he knew he needed. Wragg introduced defenders Eiffel Edwards, Macclesfield Town, and Martin Filson, Stalybridge Celtic. They had played for Wrexham and Tranmere in the league, and forwards Jimmy Cameron, Winsford Town, and Sean Constable, Scunthorpe United. Macclesfield midfielder Colin Lambert was also signed, though his Town debut would be delayed through injury. Pre-season went well, with Town battling through to the final of the Yorkshire and Humberside Cup. They were in effect defending it, as it had not been contested since Town won it 3 years earlier, but Wragg knew that this would count for nothing in the conference. He had gone on record as saying it would take Town at least 10 games before they won their first match, but this had not gone down well, with some supporters who accused Wragg of being too negative. Negative or not, Wragg was not too far out, as Town found the tough get going. They found the going tough. They opened with a frustrating 0-0 draw with Kettering, but after 8 games they were still looking for their first win and had sunk next to bottom of the table. They had also lost the services of keeper Lee Bracey, who moved to Bury for £25,000 after the first game, though Wragg responded by snapping up a popular replacement in Darren Hayes from Rochester. But while Town struggled to adapt to life in the conference, they retained the Yorkshire Cup by beating Frank Stapleton's Bradford City at Valley Parade. With a superlative display, they ran out 4-2 winners, with goals coming in order from Constable, an own goal by Noel Blake, Steve Saunders and Jamie Patterson. Saunders and Dave Hanson, newly signed from Altrincham and Bury, made their debuts in that match, and hopes carried over into the next fixture. But Town were in for a rude awakening as Runcorn tore them apart at Canal Street, winning 5-0. When the Shaymen eventually broke their conference duck, they did so in style, winning 6-2 at Woking, the first time a Halifax side had scored as many away since beating Knaresborough by the same score in December 1911 in the Old Yorkshire Combination. Then, as if to confirm it was no fluke, they scored 6 the following week too, this time against Telford, but they could not keep the goal flood going. Town failed to win any of the next 5 matches and languished in 18th place. With Lucchetti having joined Bracey at Bury at the cost of £50,000, Wragg signed Craig Boardman from Peterborough as a replacement. Boardman made his debut in a 3-0 win over Bromsgrove. He was fortunate that Town's next match was an eagerly awaited FA Cup tie with First Division West Bromwich Albion at the Shea. The game was screened live by Sky Television on a Sunday afternoon, and Town grabbed the headlines after their giant-killing 2-1 win. The Shaymen lost 5-1 at Stockport in the next round. They found it hard to cope with the 6'7" frame of Kevin Francis, but Wembley still beckoned, more realistically in the FA Trophy, which commenced in January. Town had by now lost the services, temporarily they thought, permanently as it turned out, of Steve Saunders, brought down by a mysterious illness. But they had recruited a new keeper in Richard Wilmot, Scunthorpe United, and a replacement striker, Steve Burr, Stafford Rangers. In the first round, Town saw off local side Emley before making the trip to Spennymoor United in the next. When the Shaymen won 2-1, their unbeaten run in League and Cup matches had been extended to 8, but the board was seemingly unimpressed. Concerned that Town had not made any impact in the conference, Chairman Jim Brown summoned Wragg to tell him he was sacked. Wragg was astonished. Though part-time manager, for that is what he was, running a full-time club was deemed by the board to be unacceptable. The outcome had seemed to have been on the cards for a while. John Bird, former boss at both Hartlepool United and York City, in his playing days he'd been a tough central defender with Preston and Newcastle United, was quickly installed as the new manager, but he got off to a terrible start. Bird saw his new side toss away the lead before going down 2-3 at Telford, then watched in disbelief as Town scrambled a draw at Runcorn in the FA Trophy before losing the replay miserably 2-0 at the Shea. Bird set out about recruiting his own players. Left-back Steve Prindiville arrived from Wycombe Wanderers, and Lincoln City forward Tony Lormer came on loan. Centre-back Alex Jones arrived next from Rochdale, with Jason Peake making the journey in the opposite direction. But as all hopes of the conference title and with it promotion long since disappeared, Bird looked ahead to the following season. Peter Craven had already gone to Preston, and Eiffel Edwards joined Southport in April, while Bird looked at trialists Nigel Smith, Farsley Celtic, Jeff Horsfield Scarborough and Pat O'Toole Shamrock Rovers. O'Toole had previously been with Leicester City, though none at this stage proved successful. The closing weeks of the season were uninspired. Town eventually ended their first conference season 13th, and this poor showing was reflected in the attendances. An unprecedented 643 turned up for the visit of Dagenham at the end of April. The club was again fast losing money, and having made the bold decision to remain full-time for a second season, barring success on the pitch, these mounting debts would surely catch up with them.